heavily snow-capped mountains are gradually losing snow masses. The greenhouse gas present in the atmosphere will be still there for many years. The warming will still continue.
There is still going to be some repercussions and that the global warming is inevitable.
The Hindukush-Himalayan glaciers will be lost by 30 to 50%. That is inevitable. Unless we actually work together in those solutions, it will not be effective. So this transboundary cooperation, that's something which we need to continue doing. So non-climatic benefits are also there. Financial benefits, for example, as well as air quality benefits, health benefits. There is always benefit of keeping our own house in order. We have been late, very late, because a lot of things will be irreversible and we don't want to get to that situation.
There's some good collection in different areas in Islamabad where you get to have like the local handmade stuff as well. And
True. Yeah, I have come, so I bought handicrafts and other thing earlier also. Yeah, okay, yeah. Did some economic, benefit to the local.
Yeah. So you've been to Islamabad many times before as well. Like this is maybe your 10th trip to Pakistan.
At least 10th. I lost my count, but probably at least 10 times I've been here.
So how has been your experience like working closely with Pakistani counterparts in ICIMOD and like working on the climate change? Tell us a bit about, the sort of like parallels we have in our northern areas and in Nepal when it comes to the sort of like challenges we have in climate change.
Well, let me start with how it has been working with Pakistani colleagues back in the office. It has been really nice, and we have a multi-nationality kind of working environment. And I am very close to several Pakistani colleagues there, and it is very nice chatting with them, talking with them. We have lunch together. And the other thing is we have Indian colleagues as well, and then Indian colleagues and Pakistani colleagues get well very, very much. And then kind of the environment of our office is like that. We provide that kind of thing. And mainly because we are intergovernmental organization and we work in the whole Hindukush-Himalayan region. And countries sharing the Hindukush-Himalayan region are our member countries. So, depending on the countries, we have staff members representing those regional member countries. So that's how we work. And then we have also international, colleagues coming to work. So that is the kind of working environment, and it's quite nice to exchange different perspectives, different culture, different language. So that's that. And then, I have been working in issues related to Pakistan for quite a long time now.
Right.
Maybe I would start, my first visit was around 2006, I would say. And since then I have been regularly coming. Only last years, because of COVID, it did not happen. And then, otherwise I used to come once or twice every year or even more. And for different reasons, for different work, different activities, different projects. Sometimes it was more technical, providing training. Sometimes it is about on-the-ground implementation of things. And sometimes it is about dialogue, discussion, knowledge sharing. So very diverse kind of work we have been doing here. I can talk in depth about what we have done, but always enjoyed doing it mainly because of, the hospitality of the people, very welcoming and appreciative of good work. That's very important. Otherwise, sometimes, you do good work, but still you are not appreciated, you are not welcomed, your cooperation level is low. That demotivates. But here it has been very, very, nice to work with. People are very friendly, welcoming. So I have enjoyed very much working in Pakistan, and that's the reason. Otherwise, that's the reason. Like not a Pakistani, a Nepali guy, working in Pakistan. That's certainly different thing. So I have always been working here.
And like you mentioned that ICIMOD is primarily an intergovernmental organization. So how does it operate, and tell us a bit about the organization.
Yeah, it is intergovernmental organization, and probably the only one working on mountain issues, exclusively on mountain issues. Definitely in South Asia or in this part of the world, we are the only one working on mountain issues. So our working geography is Hindukush-Himalayan region.
Right.
This is the mountain areas of South Asia and Tibetan Plateau. And as an intergovernmental organization, we have 8 countries sharing the mountains of Hindukush-Himalaya as our member countries. And these are Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, China, India, Myanmar, Nepal, and Pakistan, right? So these are the 8 countries. And we are governed by a board of governors where representatives, high-level representatives of all those 8 countries are board members. Plus we have 7 independent board members. So that's how we are governed. And as I said, we are working on mountain-related issues, mountain people and mountain environment, and and we are a knowledge organization, right? So we try to understand the issues, the challenges, and there are new challenges coming up, especially due to climate change. So try to understand what are those challenges, in a little bit more detailed manner, so that we can also, use it to convert into solutions, right? What are the solutions to the challenges? So this is broadly the kind of work nature. So everything around knowledge and evidence, we value evidence very much, and everything we say and we propose is very heavily dependent on evidence based on scientific, understanding. So that's the kind of nature of the work we do.
Right. And so I understand that you also then perhaps carry out different researches or fund different research programs. And how do you ensure that there is action taken as a result of that research, or how do you mobilize that knowledge and coordinate with different stakeholders?
Right. Okay. We do research, yes, but we are not doing research for the sake of research. Yeah. It has to be need-based. It is not like primary research, like academic research, right? Curiosity-driven research. It is demand-driven research. There are certain issues which needs better understanding, better knowledge development, and it has to be practical kind of research which can be turned into action.
Right.
So whenever we take up research, it has to come up with output which can actually help with the solutions.
Right.
Otherwise, we do not do the research. We do not fund as such. We are not funding agency, but we might fund small-scale research and implementation to kind of complement what we do. But we are not funding agency. We work in partnership, right? We work in partnership. For example, if we need to understand something related to mountains of Pakistan, let's say the glacier, then it might not be possible for us to come here and do research due to various reasons, logistic, permission, access, all that. So what we normally do is partner with local agencies, university or NGO, depending on the nature of the work. And then with them, we conduct the research and, generate knowledge outputs. So for that, we might need to support financially for certain aspects. which I do not, call funding. It's more partnership.
Right. And so you've been into this field for a long time now. Like you mentioned that you've completed your PhD back in 96, 97?
98.
98. And you've been into this field since then. In your personal experience also, do you have seen any shift in kind of challenges that we face in this region?
To start with, even before PhD, I was very much in a similar kind of working nature.
Right.
I was working in the high altitude snow and glacier related work in Nepal. And that actually attracted me to do PhD in this field. So my PhD is on climate change. I looked at both physical aspects of climate change like temperature and precipitation, but also chemical aspects of climate change like the chemical signature character of atmosphere, snow. So that was that, but then that gave me, opportunity to continue in this field. I have been working since then in this field, but in related field, I would say, always feels related to climate change, for example, working on cryosphere. How does climate change impact cryosphere, and what are the other kind of secondary impacts due to cryosphere change?
Yeah.
What are the impacts on water resources, hazards, right? Things like that. I have been involved in GLOF risk management projects, also in high altitude, trying to reduce the lake level and thereby, reduce the chances of outburst flood from the lake. That kind of very grounded field level work, setting up monitoring station to, doing modeling, climate modeling, downscaling, hydrological modeling, and then more and more now trying to see how those knowledges can be implemented and what are the, transboundary and regional dimensions and how we can work in transboundary and regional aspect, together with different countries, different stakeholders who have common agenda, common challenges, and come up with, shared vision and shared responsibility to, also work on the solutions.
And so in your personal experience also, like you mentioned that you were interested in this field even before studying it. So in your personal experience also, do you have seen any changes occurring in the kind of challenges that we face pertaining to climate change?
Right. Yes, I started, going to the mountains, for work around 1989.
Right.
So since then, I have been going regularly, less regularly now, because of the work nature, but and that gave me chance to observe. Of course, we are doing measurements. My group is doing measurements, and we have also measurement and observation-based data of how glaciers are changing, how the melting is enhancing. That is there. But visually also, I have seen a lot of changes. Going to the mountains and seeing that those earlier quite heavily snow-capped mountains are gradually losing snow masses, less and less snow cover. I have also seen lakes forming and increasing. So that sort of things are very visual. Actually, when it comes to climate change impact, the best example is, glaciers and snowfields. There is very strong visual, evidence of change, which one can document. Most of the, mountains in areas you can see before and after kind of pictures, which really tells how glaciers and mountains are changing. In Nepal also. So that kind of visual kind of observation I have had. Having said that, sometimes we also overdo this kind of thing, right? And people provide pictures of mountain in different years and say that, look, this mountain has become black, there is no snow, and we have to be careful in telling that because it depends when the picture was taken, which season it was taken, right? A lot of our mountains are very steep, almost vertical, some of them. And then in those mountains, snow cannot actually stay for a long time. They will definitely fall off. So if you are capturing a picture after heavy snowfall, it will be white. But then if you take a picture a few weeks later, it will again be barren, right? So it all depends on timing. So sometimes it is misinterpreted, but there is no doubt that, snowfall is reducing, at least snow accumulation is reducing, and that's why also, and plus with the warming, the glaciers are retreating very rapidly.
Right. And so one of the recent conversations I had, I got to know that in Pakistan, at least in Gilgit area, heavy traffic that gathers around in the areas during holidays, the tourism. And so as a result of extensive tourism, which is also not really regulated, it also contributes to carbon emission because a lot of hotels, they run electricity on generators. So all of that contributes towards maybe changing the sort of like atmosphere there. So do you also face similar challenges in Nepal?
What I would imagine is that it would impact the local air quality perhaps more than the warming, the greenhouse gases. And because of those air pollution, some of those air pollution, species actually tend to get deposited on snow and ice and then accelerate the melting.
Right.
So that probably could be more kind of impact from those tourists going there. Now, difference between here, let's say in Karakoram and Nepal in eastern Himalaya, let me start with similarities.
Yeah.
Two major similarities, both of those regions are stunningly beautiful.
Yeah.
And like anywhere else in the mountain, people are very friendly. So these are two, similarity I see in both regions. Difference, there are a lot of differences. Karakoram is, because of its geographical position, it is less influenced by monsoon, more influenced by western disturbances. So moisture source here is predominantly due to western disturbances,
Right.
Which is in form of snow in higher altitude, right? Of course, in the lower altitude also, but then in terms of accumulation, it happens in the higher altitude, which nourishes the glaciers. And therefore, you have huge glaciers, actually, very big glaciers here. In Nepal, eastern Himalaya, the moisture is from monsoon, and it is not only in the high altitude, of course, snowfall, but in low altitude also, and mid altitude, a lot of rainfall. So there are a lot of vegetation. And mountains are quite vegetated, unlike in here, mountains are quite barren in the higher altitude, right? So for that reason, if we go further downstream, in eastern Himalaya, meltwater quickly becomes less important source of water, and rainfall runoff, base flow becomes more important source of water. Whereas here, meltwater is the dominant source of water. The rainfall runoff is probably not so much. Even if you go further downstream, 80%, and then up to the deltaic part, 40% is because of meltwater. Whereas in Nepal, if you go that further downstream, the contribution of meltwater is only 10, 12, 15%. So that also tells the sensitivity to melting, right? Climate change and melting. So in Gilgit-Baltistan, I see that there is very less, agricultural land, And then for agriculture also, you need to bring water from glaciers. You draw directly from water from glaciers. And if glaciers are receding, then those water system, the conveyance system, the irrigation system are in problem.
Right.
And that would even lead to abandonment of those lands and shifting. Whereas in our part of the world, water is not drawn directly from the glacier, but after it melts somewhere downstream, we tap it. So even if the glacier is retreating, there is some water still coming out, so it doesn't create that kind of problem, right? So these are the kind of, and then our glaciers are quite high. The terminus where the glaciers end are around 4,000 or higher, even higher than that. Whereas here in Gilgit-Baltistan, there are glaciers coming down to 2,400, 500. So as low, up to the highway, Karakoram highway, you can see just next to that, right? Yeah. So that is what. And then one or two more things I would add. Unlike in the Hindukush-Himalayan, in Karakoram there are some glacier advancing. Right. Advancing. Which we do not know yet exactly why it is happening, because of the climate warming, why still it is advancing, or how long it will advance. And some research suggests that this advancing phenomena is now coming to an end, which we used to call Karakoram anomaly, which is coming to an end or has ended, and now onwards they will behave similar to other regions, meaning shrinking, receding. In Eastern Himalaya, it is all glaciers are receding and shrinking. There are no advancing glaciers. Here there are some surging glaciers also, right? The surging glaciers which are often blocking another glacier or stream, and then that creates ice dam lake, and they frequently burst out, right? So this phenomena happens in a regular basis in Shimshal and other places. So regularly there is an outburst flood, which are from those ice dam lake. In our part, there are not. I have not seen any surging glacier. And then these ice dam lakes are quite rare. Most of our lakes are moraine dam lakes. Right? These are huge, large proglacial lakes which are formed by dammed by lake moraine, right? And the breach is the outburst is because of breaching of those moraine, which is not a regular phenomenon. Once it happens, it probably will never happen, or happen in a long period of time. So these are the differences also, and it also is very important in terms of monitoring and also kind of predicting when an outburst can happen. Right, I have seen in Pakistan, I think there is one glacier lake called Badsan or Bad something, which burst out recently this year. But then because of the temperature monitoring and based on temperature, it was predicted within a reasonable time frame, right? Because here temperature is the main driver, whereas for the glacier lakes in Eastern Himalaya, it's mostly, most of the outburst floods have happened because of mass movements, some mass falling into the lake. It could be rock, it could be ice, avalanche, falling into the lake, creating, displacement wave, overtopping the moraine and breaching the moraine, eroding the moraine and breaching the moraine. So these are, quite differences. But then what we are talking is about floods. What we are talking is about drought, right? Which we call too much and too little water. So the geography is different, the climate is different, but then at the end, the challenges are related to either too much water or too little water. And the impacts on people, livelihood is more or less the same.
So I was going through some other studies that indicated that if the carbon emissions are kept or reduced to pre-industrial levels, this region is still expected to lose 1/3 of its glacial volume by the end of this century. So does that mean that no matter what we do, there is still going to be some repercussions, and that the global warming is inevitable?
Even if we manage to reduce the greenhouse gas emission to a pre-industrial level,
Right.
The warming will still continue, and that happens because the greenhouse gas present in the atmosphere will be still there for many years. There are different types of greenhouse gases: carbon dioxide, methane, and others. They all have their own lifetime, right? So once emitted, they will stay there for a certain number of years. Depending on which greenhouse gas, it could be 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, and some greenhouse gases have even longer lifetime. So those present already will continue to be present there, and their impact on atmosphere will be there in terms of warming. So that warming will continue for some time, and then gradually, if we really reduce the emission, it will go down, and the climate might come down or stabilize also, right? So what we say is that through climate negotiations, there are proposals or demand to stabilize the global temperature to certain levels, right? So 1.5 degree or 2 degree. So for that we need to do a lot of greenhouse gas mitigation actions, right? It will not happen just like that, but through those efforts, if we manage to do that, managed to stabilize the global average temperature to 1.5 degree by the end of the century compared to the pre-industrial period, the Hindukush-Himalayan glaciers will be lost by 30 to 50%, right? So that is inevitable. And the other thing which we have observed is 1.5 degree global average warming would mean in Hindukush-Himalaya, which is also a large region, the average warming will be about 1.8 degree, and in certain pockets it could be 2 degrees, right? So at least 0.3 to 0.5 degree more than the global average, and that's why we say that even 1.5 degree is too hot for Hindukush-Himalaya.
Right.
So that excess warming, which we call elevation-dependent warming, and that's a phenomena which we observed here and elsewhere also. As we go higher up, the warming rate is faster. Right. So that means that is the reason the glaciers will be shrinking even if we manage to stabilize at 1.5 degree. But then that's a very ambitious target, right? We all know 1.5 degree is very difficult from what we see is going on. So it will be higher than that. And if it goes higher than that, the scenario could be even 70%, 75% of glacier loss, which is really serious, kind of scenario we're looking at.
Sometimes, like, I go through some content online, and you come across every kind of argument. So I was listening to a podcast where it was argued that we are somehow still in that ice age, which is like now ending, and yes, it may be anthropogenic, but that contribution that human activity has, it may not be like huge. So how do you see this?
Well, that's the argument most of the climate skeptics use to avoid action.
Yeah.
Yes, our planet has seen many epochs of warming and cooling. We have had huge, glacial periods, with almost half of the planet covered in ice, the northern hemisphere, and similarly warm periods, right? But those changes were all driven by nature.
Right. And they happened over a period of thousands of years.
Thousands and millions of years, right?
Right.
And there are a lot of reasons. The solar change, the orbital change, the way Earth orbits around the sun and things, the Earth
tilts towards its axis.
All that, yeah.
All of that, yeah.
So these are all, 40,000 years, 20,000 years, 10,000 years cycle, right? And the last glacial maximum was around 18,000 years ago, ended around 10,000, 11,000 years ago. After that, the Earth has been in a most stable condition and warm condition continuously for last 10,000, 11,000 years, which is kind of unprecedented, right? But then there were small blips, some cold stages and warm stages within that period also. Medieval warm period is one, and then little ices in another other one.
And I think 1600, 1700.
The last, cooling was because of little ices, and it is now, we are at the end of the little ices. Some believe that we are still getting out at the tail end of little ices, but basically, last few hundred years, there has been natural warming phase because of the end of the little ices, right? So that's there. That is established. But on top of that, we have this anthropogenic warming. Now, there are ample researches and ample evidence that shows that now, after the pre-industrial period, the fraction of anthropogenic warming compared to the natural warming is much, much more, right? There are, if you want to believe evidence, there are evidences. So I think, at least for me, there is no reason to keep on arguing about this. It is predominantly anthropogenic, and little bit of natural warming, definitely it's there.
So all these efforts that we are putting towards climate, are we striving to reduce the pace of warming, or is it just that we are trying to control the effects of it?
Both. When it comes to climate actions, of course, one is to hit the root cause of the problem, which is greenhouse gases, right? So to reduce the greenhouse gas emission is one. So that is unavoidable. We have to reduce greenhouse gas emission if you really want to solve this problem. And we know the challenges related to that. Every year we meet and then discuss about it, but in terms of actions, there is very little, things happening, right? And then we also discuss that even if we manage to reduce the greenhouse gas emission today, its effect will continue for several years to come. That means there will be impact. There will be impact, like we said, too much and too little water will continue to happen, impact on agriculture, impact on energy, impact on health. It will continue to happen. So the second option is very important, which is actually adapt to those changes, right? Different, solutions that can help adapt to those changes. And then very important is adaptation at local level, because those challenges are faced by local communities, right? So the first and foremost, we have to adapt at local level. And there are sufficient amount of solutions. We have proven solutions which might be directly implemented or slightly customized, or we need to innovate more. But this can be done to, address the issue of too much and too little water issues, like, early warning systems, local scale water management, all sort of things are there. And then, moving a little bit above that at, district or provincial or even national level, there are, forecasting, early warning systems, that kind of guidance systems that can help us plan better, seasonal forecasting, or that kind of thing can plan our reservoirs, our other kind of things, right? Agricultural activities, irrigation planning, things like that.
Water
scarcity issues. So same kind of problem, but at local level you have different kinds of solution. At region, national, provincial level, different kind of solutions, right? And they have to go hand on hand. It's not in isolation. One has to feed into another one.
Right.
But then what I would like to stress is that we are living in a shared environment. These are river basins which are transboundary. More than one country shares those river basins. Talk about Indus, 4 countries are sharing it. Water originates from one country, flows into another one, and then flows into third one, and then goes to the ocean, right? So those problems are also shared. So unless we actually work together in those solutions, it will not be effective. So this transboundary cooperation, sharing of information, sharing of data is also important. Of course, it's difficult. There are sensitivity around it. Geopolitics is very heavy here. So sharing of knowledge perhaps to start with, and then gradually develop the trust, and then work on more more kind of collaboration later on. I think that's another way. And then, we need to lobby at global level that this is happening and this has to be really, really, really seriously taken.
Right.
Right. That's the second tier. And now what we see is that even if we do those all sort of adaptation measures, there will be impacts. There will be damages, there will be losses. Losses and damages still will continue. So we also need to look at that. And there has to be mechanism that can address those loss and damage things, right? So these are the 3 main, kind of pathways or approaches that can actually, help.
And so what do you think about like the contribution towards the, in war against climate? So like, do you think that global communities in terms of collectively, they need to put efforts and help those countries that are poorer and cannot actually fight as much as the others?
Okay, so in Hindukush-Himalayan region, there are, in terms of climate, the countries are not similar, right? And countries like Pakistan, Nepal, and Bhutan are less capacitated to, adapt, in terms of resources and other capacities. But in terms of vulnerability, they are a high ranking.
Right.
And then, as you have rightly said, our contribution to this problem is minimal. So definitely looking at the global community and reminding them of their responsibility on this is definitely necessary. I think that's something which we need to continue doing. But having said that, I would not say that we don't have any role and we cannot do anything. Of course, the adaptation part is there. But we should also think of how we can also minimize our greenhouse gas emission. Carbon neutrality is something which we should also think of because it has its own benefits. It has not only the climate benefit, but also non-climatic benefits are also there. Financial benefits, for example, as well as air quality benefits, health benefits, So there is always benefit of, keeping our own house in order. That's what I would say. But of course, lobbying for, global action is definitely something which we need to continue doing.
Right. Is there anything else you have in mind that you want to talk about?
Well, we talk quite in length about many different things, right? But at the end of the day, it is about action. Unless we take action, we means everyone. It will not make a change. Now, if you ask me when should we start doing action, my answer would be yesterday or day before yesterday. We have been late, very late. And if we don't do anything, it will be too late. So let's not do that and start taking action, at least today, before it's too late. Because a lot of things will be irreversible, unimaginable and irreversible. and we don't want to get to that situation.
Dr. Arun, thank you so much for your time. I understand that you have a flight today and you still managed to come over. Really a pleasure to have you over.
Enjoyed very much conversing with you on this important topic, and a topic that I take it in my heart. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.